Welcome future leaders to Mpero na Sheria Show, where we make the law simple for children to understand. As usual, I'm your host, Blessed Barak Juma, and today our focus is on something totally different, which is child trafficking. Do you know what child trafficking is? Send us your answers on the number on the screen. But don't worry, it's not something big to wonder about. Our explainer, Brian King, is going to unpack this information for us.
When Temu was 5 years old, he attended a fun day at the Horror Park. Now, unfortunately, Temu got lost, and when he was lost, a stranger approached him and took him. Okay? Temu ended up being another child who went missing and a victim of child trafficking. Child trafficking is when someone takes a child away from their home and does things to them that are not fair, kind, or safe to them. It happens sometimes when children are tricked, sometimes children are taken by force, and sometimes they're even sold by the people they trust. Okay? But that's why we're here though. It's sad and it hurts so many children from all over the world. In fact, every year, over 1 million children from all over the world go missing. But that's why we're here today to talk about child trafficking and what you can do to protect yourself and others.
Thank you very much, King. But remember, Brian is not the expert. We're having an expert on the set who is going to give us now full details about child trafficking. Mr. Sam, who is our guest today? Be ready to get this full information about child trafficking.
I've got rights, you got rights, we all do. Right to learn and right to play too. No one should.
I told you that this time we're going to have a whole different conversation, which is not all about budgeting, national budgeting, children's participation budgeting. This time we're going to have something very important which involves you as children. So nyinyi kama watoto, today we are going to discuss child trafficking, which niliwaambia mapema. So you guys are now ready to note down this information. And now I'm here with my expert here on the set who is going to give us full information about child trafficking. What is the Swahili word for child trafficking though?
I don't know. I think our viewers can answer that one.
Okay.
Yes.
Send your answer for the Swahili word for child trafficking on the SMS number on your screen, which is 20264. So,
Yes.
sir, please, can you introduce yourself to our viewers?
Thank you so much. My name is Samuel Monoro Gikundi. I am a lawyer and I'm passionate about children and the law. I've been worked with Thika Law Courts, that is the Children's Court. And so I'm passionate about children and the law, and I'm so excited to have the conversation around child trafficking and what the law says about child trafficking and what has been stipulated by the government and other organizations in regards to trying to regulate this crime and also be able to give justice to those who have been affected. Yes.
Okay. So guys, I've also known something. The Thika Court is a court for children. So, how do we call a court for children, by the way, instead of just calling it a court?
Well, so Thika Law Courts in itself is a high court. It has the high court in it, it has the magistrates court, and then it has the children's court. Mm-hmm. So in almost every court in Kenya, mm-hmm. there is a space that has been stipulated specifically for the children's court. Mm-hmm. So whereby you find, as I was telling you again, it is just the law courts, but then it has a segment or a whole court just for children. And this is because children also have a right for justice, and for them they're protected by the law, that is according to Article 53 of the Constitution, which provides for the right of the child. And the law tries as much, inajaribu sana to protect children from easy. Najua other courts, people can just enter, but the children's court is special with its own magistrates who understands children matters, and also their own prosecutors and lawyers and all that. So Thika Law Court in itself has committed itself to that. It has a children's court in its vicinity. Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Also, I've learned that every court has a children's part in it.
Yes.
So children, do you see how valuable you are? In this government, in this world, you guys have your own law which protects you.
Absolutely.
So, moving right to our conversations.
Yes.
Our theme this month is going to be about child trafficking.
Absolutely.
So, what is child trafficking according to you?
Well, child trafficking is a crime First, I will start by putting it that simply. Child trafficking is a crime. And the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime tries to define it. And it defines it by it's the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of children through force, fraud, or deception with the aim of exploiting them for profit. So any activity that is done to exploit a child for profit, then that is taken as child trafficking. From the transferring to the harboring to engaging them, receiving them, that all of that is engaged as child trafficking. In Kenya, it is defined in the Trafficking of People Act of 2022, if I'm not sure. Yes.
So, sir, according to what you've said about child trafficking,
Yes.
so you said, first of all, while starting, you said it's a crime.
Yes, it's a crime.
So, mainly, what makes the child trafficking a crime?
Interesting. So as I put it, first of all, let me correct. It is the Counter Trafficking in Persons Act, Cap 61 of the laws of Kenya. Let me make that correction before I continue. What makes child trafficking a crime is basically the activities that are undertaken. And so we are going to divide it into three. Crimes are made from a point of how do we determine something is a crime? We determine it from what is the aim of that crime, what is the method that has been used, and what is the end goal of it. So in law, we are able to put it in Latin, it's called mens rea and actus reus. That is in terms of the motive and then the action. So the act itself, the activities by traffickers such as recruiting, transporting, transferring, harboring, and receiving victims already starts constituting the crime. And then now the means that have been used. The methods that are used now is what ulikuwa unasema from kidnapping. Kidnapping is a means. Sijui kama unanipata. Kidnapping, threat, use of force, abusing the victim's vulnerability. Unaona anakuambia niko na kaswiti kidogo nifuate tuende hivi. That already anatumia hiyo means. That's a means of being able to commit this crime. So the ultimate goal of child trafficking stamps the crime in itself.
Thank you very much for explaining that. And so, you say that, okay, we all of us say that child trafficking is a crime. So, could you please guide us how child trafficking occurs, and mainly based on the case studies you have dealt with, because you are a lawyer. I know you've dealt with so many cases, and because you told us that you've worked with the, let me call it a juvenile court in the Thika Road court. So the Thika court, I mean.
Yes.
So I believe you've dealt with so many cases. So can you give us can you get us through how child trafficking occurs according to the cases?
Absolutely. I may not be able to get into specific case study because the law does not allow that, especially when it matters to do with children. You're not allowed to just put, but I'll use some few case studies that have even maybe on your screens or magazines that you've seen. So child trafficking, the reason why child trafficking is very dangerous is because it's a silent crime. What do I mean by this? It happens so subtly. Ni kitu huwezi notice rahisi. Unaget ni kitu pole pole. An example, let me give you an example. There was let's say there was one time a lady, a young girl that is, was promised a better life, and so she was to go and work for one of the relatives. So she was a 14-year-old girl from rural Kisii County, and she was approached by a woman from Nairobi who promised her a job. Ni watu wangapi wanapromisiwa hivyo? I think so many. So especially kama udiwezi sana, unapata na promisiwa. So akakuwa promised that atasaidiwa nini? Kupata pesa. So when alifika Nairobi, so she came to Nairobi without telling her relatives and even telling her where she is. This girl would work from 4 a.m. in the morning to 12 a.m.
Oh.
So if you look, she's even like had 4 hours of only sleep. This is a 14-year-old girl we are speaking about. And so she was, and she was not also paid any money. So there's no any money that she's being paid, and her phone was taken away, and she was not allowed to talk to anyone. But luckily enough, a neighbor was able to notice, and she reported it to the police, calling the child line. You know the child line? I think it's 116.
116.
Exactly, she called it, and then authorities rescued Mary, and the trafficker was arrested and charged under the Counter Trafficking in Persons Act. So that is one of the cases.
So to such people who have been practicing this a crime of child trafficking, this criminal activity, so what does the law say that should be done to these traffickers actually?
Absolutely. So first of all, trafficking in itself is so inhumane. I'm one person who who is very passionate. These people should be given the maximum sentence. But I'll go according to what the law says. That is my opinion, but that's what the law says. So the Counter Trafficking in Persons Act number 8 of 2010, this is the main law in Kenya that deals with human trafficking, general human trafficking. But also there, I think in section 3, it now talks about in details about child trafficking and someone who promotes child trafficking, what should happen to them. So section 3, section 3, which is the offense of trafficking in persons, states that any person who recruits, transports, transfers, harbors, or receives another person for the purpose of exploitation, including child labor, sex trafficking, slavery, etc., commits an offense. And then section 4 now adds, apart from that, if now it involves a child, nataka uone how the law protects you.
Okay.
Come and involved a child, it becomes now an aggravated offense. It means it becomes a more serious offense.
Yeah, okay.
Like, hapa ni either adults. Ni sawa, adults tunaweza kuwekea hapa. But ni child, we raise it. Because we want to protect our children. You know, even attempted trafficking or being involved in a trafficking network, e.g. as a recruiter or facilitator, attracts serious penalties. And then we have the Children's Act 2022. This is now, you should also know this act. These are some of the acts that children you should be able to know. These are your rights. That is the Children's Act of 2022 and also the Article 53 of the Constitution. Please write that down if you're writing down.
So what have you learned from this discussion, this conversation? Send us your answers on the number on your screen. And also, as usual, send us your views on what you want us to discuss on our next episodes. Just on the numbers on the screen. And also, without forgetting, send us your questions. Any question you have about anything, just send us your questions on the number on your screen. I've been your host, Blessed Barak Juma. See you in our next episode.
Bye.
Haki ya maisha na kucheza, haki ya kusoma shuleni na kulindwa kila saa.